If you're new in town or just new to this whole podcast thing, you're tuning in to Law by Night, the podcast that discusses all things vampiric with no fear of breaching the masquerade. In this episode, we continue the Re-Embrace series, where we take popular vampires in fiction and put them into Vampire the Masquerade. This episode will focus on Seras Victoria from the Hellsing franchise. So, you want to put everybody's favourite big-tittied vampire in your game of Vampire the Masquerade? Of course you do, you fucking weeb. Why else would you be here other than to judge me with gross curiosity? This was going to be a proper series once, I swear. In the previous episode of this series, we re-embraced Count Von Count as an NPC belonging to Clan Malkavian, and I asked you, the lovely listeners, to get in touch with me to suggest which vampire I should look at next. There were lots of wonderful ideas over the last 9-ish months, but the suggestion of Seras Victoria from the Hellsing manga and anime by Ihan Viles and Eli Vasquez, I'm really sorry if I got those names wrong, caught my eye, so thank you both for your delightful suggestion. But before I unpack my thought processes on how I made a character sheet for Seras, there are a couple things I wish to point out first. Firstly, to make things as simple as possible for me, I shall be using the Hellsing wiki as my source of information for Seras Victoria, so if there is any information about her that I've missed or something that does not exist as of the writing of this script, tough. Second, the placement of stats, disciplines, and clan are all down to my interpretation to what I have seen and read, so I really don't care if you say the way I have created this NPC is wrong. This is only to serve as a helpful and flexible guide. And with that out of the way, let's make our definitely not broken Dracolinia. There is an awful lot we know about Seras, so to go through all now would be a huge waste of time, and honestly I cannot be that arsed to read her huge fucking wiki page. For a shortish summary, Seras was a police officer as a mortal who, along the rest of her squad, was sent into Cedar Village to investigate a priest who was responsible for multiple homicides. A vampire, disguised as a priest, had taken control of the town and turned its inhabitants into ghouls, which in that universe is more the traditional ye-old description of ghouls. Alucard, big powerful vampire protagonist vampire shows up, saves the night and embraces her, now making her the point of view character for the audience as the audience is brought into the Hellsing organization. Hellsing stands for Her Royal England Legions of Legitimate Supernatural and Immortal Night Guard, and they hunt the supernatural, located just on the outskirts of London town. We know that Seras was embraced at the age of 19 in 1999, and the story of her ends when she is 49, so 30 years of her being a vampire. She starts off rather childlike, bound to her morals, which is in complete contrast to literally the entire world around her. This makes sense given her age and her previous occupation as a police officer. She is often shown to be a very brave, strong and heroic young woman who also exhibits a wild temperament, never want to shy away from questioning the morals of what is happening. All of this probably originates from her horrid upbringing, which I am not going to talk about here. Her parents were murdered, that's all you need to know. It is also probably where she got her wit and quick thinking from, in addition to her policing duties. With this in mind, this would affect how she would go about feeding. Now, NPCs in V5 don't usually get assigned predator types, because why would you bother doing hunting scenes for NPCs? But I will figure that out anyway because it helps me get into the mindset of the character in question. Seras should fall into the bagger category, but none of the merits associated with her make sense, as it is all spoon-fed to her, metaphorically speaking. So the next best choice I'm deeming appropriate is the consensualist predator type, as she does not like the idea of feeding off blood and would only do so with permission, I feel. She gains 1 dot of humanity, a victim specialty in the persuasion skill, 1 dot in all specs, which I'm giving her heightened senses for obvious reasons. She gets the dark secret flaw, Masquerade Breacher, which makes sense given she is not exactly subtle with her prowess, her condition, or even liking it. Finally, she gets the feeding flaw, Prey Exclusion, specifically from non-consenting participants. As a vampire, she hosts a variety of different abilities, most of which do not point her towards any real VTM clan in particular. Superhuman strength and speed are potence and celerity respectively, and the third eye ability is Auspex. Enhanced vampiric resistance sounds like fortitude to me, and the regeneration is just standard VTM vampire things. That said, there is plenty here to suggest that Seras would be of Clan La Sombra. Seras' dark composition abilities are a manipulation of darkness and shadow, extending from her amputated arm. When she summons her devoured lover Pip and said dark matter, you could treat this as abyss mysticism ritual power, shadow of hands that serve. Alucard's shadowy abilities are far more akin to the elder obteneration power, the darkness within. Then there is the matter of her embrace. Her humanity is torn from her, her fellow police officers dead, her parents slaughtered, made to resent humanity every step of the way, despite her naivete. Seras is made to choose a life as a vampire, or death, the final step that only a La Sombra would dare make with such little emotion. Yes, I know her sire Alucard is Dracula, who's also Vlad Tepes, so that should make her a Tzimisce, but she's not, so suck a lemon, you big babies. I also know that it's heavily implied Alucard is the first vampire, meaning that Seras should be of the second generation, but we all know that is fucking stupid. For the benefit of this guide, I'm going to assume her of the 10th generation. To me, this allows me to present a visible excuse for how she is so versatile with so many disciplines, but a master of none. She is still a neonate, but one with a bit more experience of vampiric society. As we are making an NPC character, we're going to be a bit more lenient with the distribution of dots when we would if we were making a regular neonate. It also does mean I will be doing a fair amount of guesswork as to where I distribute her points to what I believe would make sense. This character has a lot of resolves to get the job done, and is not to back down so frequently. I would say, for this reason, her composure is about the same. As a policewoman, she would have a fair amount of training and would be in fairly good shape, so she is physically well built. Not naturally strong by herself, but definitely more dexterous and stamina focused than others. Whilst not a monstrous character, she is not much of a talker. Point her in front of something and she will smash things up. So let's have a look at the character sheet that I made. Physical is going to have 3 dots, dexterity is going to have 4 dots, and so is stamina. Charisma is going to have 2 dots, as is manipulation, and composure is going to be 3, resolve is also 3, wits is 4, and intelligence is 2. Similar to the attributes, one has to improvise a bit more when assigning points to skills, which I believe makes sense. As mentioned previously, Seras is an attack dog, but one with some compassion and a quick mind to get her out of trouble. She is not too knowledgeable in the occult and seems to only know what she needs to know for a given task. Seras is also seen frequently with guns, being an elite marksman. That said, that is quite a generous term, as her preferred weapon of choice is a fucking rocket launcher. So what did I put down? Well, athletics and brawl both have 3 points, drive has 1 dot, firearms has 4 dots with a specialty in rocket launchers, which is probably the weirdest specialty I'm ever going to assign to anything, melee has 2 dots, etiquette has 1 point, insight has 3 dots, intimidation has 2 points, streetwise has 1 dot, both academics and awareness have 3 dots, as does investigation, and occult has 1 dot. Now we move on to the disciplines, which is where things get a little funky. As mentioned previously, Seras has some expertise in many disciplines besides obtenebration, or oblivion as it's called in V5. Potence, celerity, and fortitude, the former being the other La Sombra discipline. Seras does not seem to be a supernatural manipulator of the mind, so no dominate for her either. So what did I decide with besides the aforementioned Auspex, which has heightened senses, and no dominate? Well, she has 2 dots in potence, lethal body, and prowess. Oblivion has 3 dots, oblivion sight, shadowcast, and arms of Ahriman. Celerity also has 3 dots, rapid reflexes, fleetness, and blink, and I've given 1 dot in fortitude, resilience. So let's tidy up the rest of the character sheet now. Name, Seras Victoria. Clan, La Sombra. Sect, I wasn't too sure what to put here, so I put Cam ? But obviously do whatever the fuck you want. Predator type, consensualist. Generation, 10. Chronicle, London by night. Ambition, complete the mission. Desire, put your own in there. Health is at 7, willpower's at 6, and humanity, I couldn't decide whether it's 6 or 5, so do whatever the fuck you want, I guess. I've given her 2 convictions: you are not a monster, with the touchstone of Walter C. Dermes, and don't give anything that isn't your best, with Sir Integria Fairbrook Winstgate Hellsing. And of course, let us not forget the blood potency, which is at 2, and that, they say, is that. Together, we have re-embraced Seras into Clan La Sombra with what I believe is a decent representation of her with a cool V5 character sheet. I hope you found this useful, whether you wanted to create her for your own games, or perhaps you had no idea about going putting to stats to elders and neonates or whatever the fuck you want. Hopefully, with future installments of this series, you will grow with more confidence in creating NPCs. As with the previous episode in the series, I would love to hear about which vampires we should re-embrace together, so let me know on social media and the comment of the YouTube version of this episode, and I'll just add them to the meat grinder. To be kept updated, follow the Law by Night VTM Twitter and Instagram pages to find out when we upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, as you'll be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.